Hey, what's up, everyone? This is IE Fish and Crawl, aka IEFNC, coming at you with another video. I wanted to break down my carp rig, my carp setup, the way I do things, just to help out others that are wondering how to fish for carp, how to set up a method feeder for carp. This is what this is called, a method feeder. I'm gonna show you how I pack the method feeder and how I set it up, and I'm gonna run down exactly the stuff I use to set it up. The size hooks, the size of the lines and leaders and everything. I'm also gonna do a little update on the type of dough bait I like packing on. I have a video, a short, I believe it's a short video on how to do the pack bait, but I've made some adjustments, and to me, the adjustments are made, that's how I like it currently. There's another dough bait that I'm working on, that I'm experimenting on it. I don't know when I'm gonna be carp fishing again, because it's starting to get, we're already in fall and it's gonna get winter, so I might be focusing more on trout fishing, hitting up the lakes that stock trout and stuff like that. So it might be a while since I carp fish, but the dough I was using on my last video at Lake Paris, I had called it 626. If you didn't know, the reason why I call it 626, that name comes from the movie Lilo and Stitch. If you've watched it, you know that they would call Stitch Experiment 626. And since I was experimenting with that dough, that's why I labeled it 626. And it was a bait shootout between my OG carp bait and this 626 experimental bait that I was doing. It has nothing to do with the recipe. It's just something that I thought was funny, and so I just named it 626. Inspired by Stitch. I'm still working on that. I can drop you guys that recipe if you guys really want it. They're kind of tied. There's no one that's really ahead. I think I mentioned that the OG probably caught like one or two fish more, but they were also hitting on the 626 dough bait. So if you guys want it, it's just a different way to do the dough bait, the pack bait for the setup. Or if you have a cage feeder, you can use it on that as well. I have cage feeders, but I am really not a fan of them. Hold on. These are the cage feeders. They work. Both of these work. But the reason why I prefer the method feeders is because they use less dough bait. It's not expensive to make this dough bait. It's very probably to take you on about 3 trips with the amount of ingredients that you get. It probably costs you like $5, maybe $8, no more than 8. But just to be a little more stretch out the dollar a little more, I use the method feeder instead. And this one works too, but again, I prefer the method feeder because you use less bait to get the same job done. So yeah, break it down. I prefer using a medium to a medium heavy rod between 7 foot to 8 foot in length. It can be fast or moderate fast action. It's all personal preference, but me personally, I prefer the fast action, just because you're launching stuff that's a little more heavy, and you kind of don't want it to bend too much. So that's why I prefer fast action. The reel, in my opinion, 3,000 is like the sweet spot. You can go a little bit. You can go to 2,500. You can go up to 4,000. But for me, I personally prefer the 3,000 reels. You can put a good amount of line on them, and I just prefer 3000. They have good drag system. So yeah, the line that I use on my reel itself is a 30-pound braid. I'll link down the exact stuff that I use, the braid and the lines and everything that I use, so that you guys can get it as well. From my main line, I am tying this rig up to this barrel swivel using a clinch knot. Since it's such a heavy line, you can get away with doing about 5 or 7 wraps. I usually do 5 wraps and then finishing off your clinch knot. Make sure you lubricate it with some spit or water, and you tighten that knot up nicely. Clip your tag in. Doesn't have to be super tight. You can have a little tail end left on the tag, but just clean it up to make it look nice. I use a barrel swivel, a size, I want to say size 10 or 12 barrel swivel on this. And then from there, I usually do about 8 inches of leader of this first leader. A braid, the braid I use in this first leader is 20-pound. And in that braid, I add a bead to protect the knot, even though it's probably not really necessary, because you'll see this method feeder, the way it's set up. Now this braid goes through the method feeder, let's see if I can get this out. This braid feeds through the method feeder, you see there, and then that's attached to another barrel swivel, size 10. This barrel swivel came with this method feeder, so I've been using it because it fits in the little method feeder nicely inside, and it snugs in nicely. But you can use another same one as this one, another size 10, and you'll be just fine. And then it comes with this little like a little rubber cap on here, and that's why I say that you probably don't need that bead, but I just place it anyways just to make sure. But then this little rubber hat slides into the top of the method feeder. This is plastic, the hard plastic, and it just secures that line and then acts like a protector, I'm guessing, against that knot in case it hits it. But after that, this I can't take it out. This barrel swivel is going to have another line coming off of it. That line, I like to use a size 15. Floral coated, not fluorocarbon. You don't have to use fluorocarbon, and I'm pretty sure a regular monofilament will work, but I use floral coated line in size 15. And if you've kind of get the gist of what's going on, I'm slowly downgrading the size of my line. So it started off with the main line being a 30-pound, then down to a 20 liter that's connected the method feeder, and then off the method feeder onto my hook, it's a 15-pound line. If my hook gets stuck or whatever, I can't get the fish out or whatever the case may be, I pull it hard enough, and hopefully if the hook is stuck on something, like I've had happen, the hook is the first thing that breaks off, and I'm able to retrieve my method feeder and then just tie another leader, fluoro coated leader, to another hook, and you're good to go, instead of losing all this and being a hassle. This is a 30-gram method feeder. this is already weighted. You don't need any more weights. And when you add your dough bait onto this, it becomes even more heavier. So you got to be conscious about that. So okay, we'll get to that right now. From the line to the hook, I usually like using about, I want to say about 3 to 6 inches. Typically 4 is a sweet spot of fluoro-coated leader from here to the hook. So it's about half the size of this whole leader, this first leader. So about like this much coming off of this barrel swivel. So the hook would land around right here. Now the size of the hook, I personally like using size 8 or size 10 bait holder hooks. If you don't know anything about carp, they have really soft mouths and it's easy for you to rip their lips out. So it's important to bring them in, but don't force them in. It's important to have a good drag set on your reel. Similar to trout fishing, when you hook on something big, you want to fight them and you want to slowly bring them in because you're using such a thin low test line. It's similar, even though we're using heavier line, their lips rip really easy, so that's why we want to have a really good drag set so that they can take runs, and then you can bring them in and slowly bring them in for that reason, because their mouth tear easily and you lose your fish. But any bait holder hook will work, whether it's the Eagle Claw bait holders from Walmart that are like $2.50 for like 5 or 6 or whatever, and the case may be, those will work just fine. Just make sure that they're bait holder hooks. On that hook, I like to hook one of these imitation corns. They're like rubbery, almost like gummy. They're like a gummy material. They smell like corn. But I like to bait one of these little corn, the imitation corn, first onto the hook, and then place it near the eye or even it on the eye itself of the hook. And then I bait another real corn, a real corn kernel on it after this, and have it set up so that the hook is nice exposed so that when the carp takes it, it gets hooked. But that's what I like to do. Bait the imitation corn and then a real corn afterwards. You'll notice that you'll easily be losing regardless if you place your real corn on after the imitation or before the imitation corn. You'll lose that easily. But this thing will last you forever. It's not going anywhere. You'll lose your hook, and that's when you'll lose your imitation corn. But my buddy who also fishes with me at Carp sometimes, he just reuses these, and he's gone like 3 or 4 times fishing and he uses the same one. I really don't care. I end up just tossing it in the trash once I'm done fishing. But because they're not really expensive, you get like a 50 pack, a 30 pack, I think it was like $5, and they'll last you a long time. But yeah, you can save them and use them a few times. But again, I'll link them which ones I use. So yeah, imitation corn and then the real corn, and then just you're good on that portion of it. Now for the bait, the dough bait, I have this fake bait that I just made right now because just for demonstration purposes. It doesn't have all the ingredients. It's just all it is the panko breadcrumbs. I couldn't even find oats. I think someone must have ate them or tossed them or whatever, the oats that I had, or they hid them somewhere good. But this is just panko with water. But it's just for demonstration purposes of how much I put. So it's your method feeder. I usually get like about enough to fill like about the palm of my hand. And then I go off if I need more or if I need less. So this is about like 2/3 of what I had made. And then I get my method feeder and I just cover the method feeder. A nice covering doesn't have to be like super packed, super like covered or nothing like that. Like pretty much like this. I just make like a little bump off the method feeder, and that's pretty much all you need. That's pretty much that's how much I put on here, and it works. Make sure you just smash it on there, pack it, like why it's called pack bait, because you pack it on there. And those little I don't know if you saw those little like grooves on the method feeder help it stay on. But that's pretty much all I bait the pack bait with on the method feeder. I don't even cover the back, nothing like that. Leave it like that, because this is already nice and weighted. Believe me, you got the 30 grams of the method feeder and then the weight of your dough bait added to that. And that's why we want a nice sturdy rod, so you can like launch this pretty good. Not like super far, you're not casting it real far. Maybe like, I want to say probably like 20 to 30 feet. You're pretty much good, like from the bank. And that's it. That's how you would toss it out. And I'll show you the little grooves, the little things. See, that's pretty much where like your pack bait's going in, and it's slowly. So the idea of this is you're pretty much chumming the water and attracting the fish to come to you. Now another reason why I like using the smaller hooks is if you're in a location where there's bluegill, they'll bite on the corn itself, and I'm pretty sure this dough bait attracts the bluegill, and the sweetness from everything that comes inside that dough bait and everything from the corn, from the jello, it brings bluegill, because I get bit from bluegill all the time. It's not just a carp setup. I get bit with bluegill all the time, and out in Lake Paris, they're nice sized bluegill. They're like easily the size of my hand or bigger, and they'll bite. And bluegill are pretty good at eating, so I like to keep them when they're nice and big, and if they look good, they're getting taken home. So that's an added benefit that, hey, maybe in your waters a bluegill will bite as well. I don't see why not, because that bluegill like corn. So this is chumming the water, attracting the carp, attracting the bluegill, and eventually you'll get bit. The bluegill hit hard. If you've never fished or caught bluegill, they hit hard and they bend your rod. So I remember the first time I thought I was like, man, that thing, it hit hard. And I was like, it's got to be a carp. I had never caught a carp or a bluegill before then. And when I brought it in, it was a bluegill. It was a nice sized bluegill. And I was like, oh man, that thing hit it hard. And it was fighting pretty good. So that's why I was a little confused. But now that I know how a bluegill reacts and a carp reacts when they're on the hook. And I can tell you before I even see it what it is. But yeah, they both bend the rod nicely. Obviously, a carp will pull your rod a little bit harder, but it's still the bluegill, for the size, they fight nice. What was I saying? So yeah, the water is getting chummed by the dough, and then obviously the correct dough has corn in it, and it has oats that's coming out, and the Kool-Aid, and it's just making this yummy temptation for the carp and bluegill. Now, if you did your dough bait correct, in about 20 to 30 minutes, you're gonna want to check your bait again. There are people who throw it out there, leave it out there, and they'll just wait until they eventually get bit. What I like to do in like 20 to 30 minutes, I reel in back my stuff, my bait, and typically about 30 minutes, this thing will be pretty much gone. It's all in the water at that point. And I like to repack it again and retoss it in this general area, so that way you just continue to build on that water that's been chummed. And obviously the fish start coming, they get more attracted, there's more chum, there's more stuff. They're like, hey, there's a huge buffet going on over here, let's head over here. And that's when you get them. So that's what I like to do. If you pull it in 30 minutes and there is a good amount, I mean like pretty much still full, or maybe you're missing a little bit, if that is the case, that means your dough is too wet, and you want to add you want to add more oats to make it more crumbly and have it disintegrate a little faster. Now, if you take it out in 30 minutes, or if you do want to test it out and take it out in 20, and in 20 minutes it's the opposite, it's completely gone, I would say repack it, rebait it, and throw it out there again, and check it in 15. If in 15 minutes it's completely gone, that means your dough is too crumbly and you need to add a little more liquid to it. You want it to have to last about 25-30 minutes is a sweet spot, in my opinion. That's when it should be completely gone. In 25-30, your stuff on here should be pretty much either completely gone or have like a little bit left on there, like this or something. And then that's, you know, that your bait's good. Repack it, throw it back out there, and continue to fish. If you follow my recipe, you'll be fine. If you follow to the T, in 30 minutes you'll be good. It won't be too dry, it won't be too wet. Follow it and you'll be good. Now, that's pretty much it. What I do is at the end of every fishing session that I do, I cut off my hooks. That's why it's missing here, the leader with the hook. And then before I go fishing the next time, I make sure that I have these already set up with the leader and the hook. And I just have these in these little Ziploc baggies. Either sandwich baggies or like the snack size baggies are good. And I just keep them in there, and I just go ahead and tie them to my main leader with the clinch knot. And then you're good. This is also tied with the clinch knot. I use a clinch knot for like all these knots, to be honest. Clinch knot on this barrel swivel, clinch knot on this barrel swivel. From this barrel swivel to my other leader is a clinch knot. And then I use another clinch knot from my leader to my hook. You can use a polymer knot. Polymer knots work amazing. You can use it here, and you can use it from this braid leader to the first end of the barrel swivel on this one. You can use a polymer knot. Sorry, I think that's how you pronounce it. But you know what I'm talking about. It's easier just to get this little barrel swivel in that loop, as opposed to you doing it backwards and you trying to get all this other stuff through the polymer knot loop. So yeah, go with the knots that you feel comfortable. Clinch knots to me are really simple and they're strong, so that's what I tend to use in these setups. Another tip. So I told you that I made some changes to the original dough bait video that I have. Here's a heads up. When getting the breadcrumbs, you want to get panko breadcrumbs, not just regular breadcrumbs. What's the difference? If you see, they're pretty much the same size container, but the difference is that panko are more airy, as opposed to the breadcrumbs are more compressed. Same container, maybe this one might be a little bit thinner, but this one weighs 15 ounces and this one only weighs 8 ounces because there's more air in this one. So this is the one you want to use. If you're going to use the regular breadcrumbs, not panko, regular breadcrumbs, you're going to have to adjust your measurements. You're going to have to use 6 ounces. You're going to have to measure it pretty much. If you wanted it to come out good, you're going to have to measure it with a scale, because it's 15 and you can't be like, oh, just half of this is 7.5. You can probably do it, but you're going to have to adjust your liquids a little more and so on. But I would recommend just going with the panko. And they don't have to be name brand. I got these ones from Aldi's. But it's going to be 3/4 of this. And then half of your a 25-ounce container of the oats. If you want to get technical, you can measure out everything by weight using the scale, and you'll see that it's going to be 6 ounces of this one, to be more exact. And it's going to be 12.5 ounces of your oats. But you can just eyeball it and be like, oh, that looks about 3/4 of this container, and then, half of the oats, and you'll be pretty good if you can eyeball it. for your jello, you can adjust this one. I like to use 3 ounces, one of these containers, 3 ounces of strawberry and 3 ounces of cherry. You can use just 1 box of strawberry, or you can use 2 of these boxes of strawberry. I like to use strawberry and cherry. That's just something that I do. Many people just use strawberry, and that's cool. Now I use 6 ounces, just again, personal preference. I just like it super red. I might try to add a picture of, if I have a good picture of my the color of my dough bait, but it's a nice bright, almost like pretty much like this color red. But I know my friend adds less jello. He probably just adds 1 box of this, and this comes out more like a light pink tint. It's all personal preference. I use 3 ounces, so a total of 6 ounces. They sell the bigger ones that are double the size, and you'll save some money too if you just get the bigger size and you just stick with strawberry. You'll be good. I use strawberry and cherry, like I mentioned, so I use the smaller boxes and just keep it simple. One box of this, 1 box of the other one. If you just want to keep it even more simple, just use a strawberry 6 ounce, or one of these, 1 3-ounce strawberry, and you'll be good. Now the other change that I did to the bait, I told you to use 1 can of the juice of the corn. I can't remember the exact measurement of the corn. It might have been like 12 ounces, 12.5 ounces. I'm not too sure. I told you use the juice of 1 can of corn, and then you were going to use about half full of just water to it. Now what I've been doing is just using the juice of 2 cans of 12-ounce corn. Corn is really cheap at Walmart. I was getting it at 50 cents a can for the store brand corn, and I was using the liquid of both those cans in there, and I was just using this, another change from the original recipe that I did on here. I was just using a quarter of the can with corn in the actual mix of the bait. Now why? This is just my thought process. I'm not too sure if it's not scientifically proven. I'm not sure if there's any kind of backing behind it, but in my opinion, we are baiting the hook with corn. Adding just a small taste of corn to the dough bait means there's a better chance, in my opinion, that they'll eventually meet up before they get full with the corn that's baited on your hook, and they'll get hooked. As suppose if we fill this dough bait with a bunch of corn, and this is more specific, I'm thinking this is more specifically towards bluegill, because I would imagine bluegill will get full quicker as opposed to carp. They'll probably a little more gluttonous, and they'll just devour it no matter how much corn is in the water column. But that's my opinion. I use a quarter of a can in the total dough bait, quarter of a can of corn in it, and then I have my corn baited on my hooks. And that's pretty much the changes that I've done. The rest of the corn, you can use a quarter of a can and put it in another baggie to take it with you, and then just save the other corn. You can eat it or whatever, or freeze it if you want to make arroz mexicano. You throw it in there, or you know, whatever you like to eat your corn, your canned corn. I know some people like to make a quick ghetto esquite. Hey, that's whatever floats your boat. But like I said, the corn is cheap. You will get 2 cans for $1. Let's see what else. This dough bait, once it's done, I like to make it a night before I go fishing, and then I put all the ingredients in a half-gallon Ziploc bag, and I just mix it in there just to keep my hands clean for the moment. mix it in there, makes it nice and mixed. It's gonna be a little crumbly. It's gonna be, sometimes it might be a little mushy, but when you stick it in the fridge, you're gonna stick it overnight before you head out fishing or however, and it's gonna firm up a bit. Me personally, I always take an ice chest, and I have ice in there, obviously, and I like keeping it in there. If you're not gonna keep it in an ice chest, I would recommend that you just keep it covered and out of like direct sunlight, because you having it in the sunlight makes it a little bit softer, and it'll just start coming off your method feeder a little bit quicker. But I like to keep it in the cooler, in the ice chest, and just take it out when I'm gonna rebait my method feeder. Let's see what else. This recipe will, especially with the method feeder, I can say if you're running two poles simultaneously, and you're fishing for carp simultaneously, this bait, the recipe that I've given you, the amount will easily last you about 8 hours, averaging 8 hours. So if you're only gonna plan to go for like 2 hours, 3 hours, I suggest just cutting the measurements by half of what I have. Or if you by chance have these cage carp feeders, these will run through it a lot quicker. So if you're gonna be fishing for 6-8 hours, I would suggest maybe trying to double up the measurements, because these things are gonna run through your bait a lot quicker. You pack these more. These have no. I think they're weighted a little bit, but yeah, you packing this thing is gonna add more weight. But that's why I like using this one. This one conserves your dough bait a little bit better, and it prolongs the usage and the time you spend out fishing. But I think that's it. Make sure you use panko and not just regular breadcrumbs. Your oats, it doesn't matter. I like using steel cut. I honestly like mixing two different oats, steel cut if I can find it, and then also just the quick oats. The steel cut are a little more like, it's like more chunkier. They're like a little more rough cut, the oats, and the regular quick oats are kind of more like finely cut up. So I like having different textures, so that way the fish can kind of get entertained by the cloud of bait that you're chumming out in the water column. But you can use either or, whatever you find, those things will work. I'll link the stuff that I use below. If you want me to, and you're interested, if you want me to set up these pre-rigs, like I told you, like I'll send them already with the leader and the hook, and then you'll just pretty much tie them onto your main line, and you can just go out fishing. And I suggest switching out your leader from here to the hook after each fishing session, and then retying a new one, just so you can have a nice sharp hook on there. But yeah, these things will last you a good amount of time. They're not going to go through. I've fished these like 4 or 5 times already, and I still have them. So if you're interested, yeah, I can tie you up some rigs and sell you them, if you just rather do that. But just let me know, message me, and we can talk. But yeah, shout out to all my followers. I'm already at like, I believe 70, so I appreciate it. I just got my last video that Rancho Harupa trout surpassed 1,000, so that's my first video with over 1,000 views. So I appreciate it, guys. It has like over 20 likes. I appreciate it, guys. You guys are watching my content. I'm just trying to be out there having fun, and hopefully you guys can enjoy it. I know, like, I watch a lot of fishing content, especially while I'm at work, on downtime, or I just have stuff playing and it's just rolling through. So I appreciate it if I'm able to alleviate some boredom or just that itch. I know sometimes I'm like, oh man, I want to be out there in the water, and just sometimes watching those videos and helping, getting more knowledge from them, because they like to share their knowledge as well. That's why I like to share stuff too. I like to test out methods and so forth, and just share it from what I have. So if you guys want that 626 recipe dough, just let me know. I'll post it. I'll put it down and I'll post it. Again, it's just gone through one test, so I can't tell you exactly how it's gonna go. But yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Like, share, subscribe. God bless.
Sunrise kisses the sleepy bay. Bamboo pole, it sways and sways. Soft on my skin, breeze whispers low. Patience is the key, let the river flow. Hooked on the line, feel the pull, feel the tug. Casting my worries like bait from the jug. Hooked on the line where the calm meets the grind. Fishing for peace and a piece of my mind.